This is Father Andrew Ritchie, and you're listening to Catholic Inspiration, a podcast from my website at studyprayserve.com. These homilies, presentations, and retreats form part of my ministry as a Catholic priest for the Diocese of Superior. And now I invite you to open your hearts to some Catholic inspiration. Today is Saturday of the 33rd week of the year. Our gospel reading is taken from Luke chapter 20, verses 27 to 40. Some Sadducees, those who deny that there is a resurrection, came forward and put this question to Jesus, saying, "Teacher, Moses wrote for us, if someone's brother dies, leaving a wife but no child, his brother must take the wife and raise up descendants for his brother." Now, there were 7 brothers. The first married a woman but died childless. Then the second and the third married her. Likewise, all the 7 died childless. Finally, the woman also died. Now, at the resurrection, whose wife will that woman be? For all 7 had been married to her. Jesus said to them, "The children of this age marry and remarry. But those who are deemed worthy to attain to the coming age and to the resurrection of the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. They can no longer die. They are like angels. For they are the children of God, because they are the ones who will rise. That the dead will rise, even Moses made known in the passage about the bush, when he called Lord the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. And he is not God of the dead, but of the living, for to him all are alive." Some of the scribes said in reply, "Teacher, you have answered well." And they no longer dared to ask him anything. All right, so let's just explain this a little bit before we get into our application today. The Sadducees, we're told, that's a group, and they were tied to temple worship. They were the ones who were tied to the sacrifices happening in the temple. They deny that there's a resurrection. They would say that the law of Moses says nothing about a resurrection from the dead. You die, you die. It's about being right with God in this life. So they put up this analogy. And so they start with quoting a passage that's taken now from Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 5. "If someone's brother dies, leaving a wife but no child, his brother must take the wife and raise up descendants for the brother." Okay, that's the teaching. That's one way to make sure that, one, a widow is connected to a family and that descendants will happen. So it's a way to preserve the ties that were fostered in marriage and to make sure that people are not left unprotected. All right. Well, then you have this lovely hypothetical situation. Here's a woman. She marries a brother. He dies, but he's got 6 more brothers. She marries the first brother. The brother dies. They have no kids, so the second brother takes over. They don't have kids. He dies. The third brother, then the fourth brother, the fifth, the sixth, the 7th brother. 7 brothers were married to this woman. They had no kids, and all of them died. God bless this poor woman, right? Hypothetical situation. And then we're told the woman also died. There's humor in this, right? It's meant to be an extravagant hyperbole. Because what the Sadducees are trying to do is to say, this is ridiculous. If you think that there's going to be some sort of eternal life, who is this woman married to in the resurrection? She going to what? Every day of the week she has a different husband? How does this work? You can hear them trying to set up a trap. Jesus does 2 things. So first off, he affirms that there is no marriage in heaven. That might come as a shock. Now, don't get me wrong. Marriage has eternal consequences. But in heaven, this is the teaching of Jesus, we no longer die. We are like angels in the sense that we have this eternal fusion. So our lives take on a different quality. That doesn't mean that for all of you who are married and love your spouse that those connections aren't present, but it takes on a whole new order of magnitude in heaven. That's why on earth we do allow for marriage and remarriage. When someone, who has a spouse, and whether it's divorce through an annulment, but through death, they are allowed to remarry. The sacrament of marriage is for the time that someone is living on earth. We're very clear about that. We even say, until death do us part. So what Jesus says is, first off, you got to get marriage right. In the eternal life, marriage doesn't have the same reality that it does here on earth. But secondly, they do something that's very interesting, that Jesus, he's going to throw it right back at them. He says, now wait a minute. If you look back at Exodus chapter 3, verse 6, there's that notion where Moses himself implies that the dead rise again. For when he's before the burning bush, he calls him the Lord, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He's the God not of the dead, but of the living. In other words, Moses cites an eternal relationship that God has with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He doesn't say that the Lord was the God of Abraham, but rather that the Lord is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That this is a living reality. So what Jesus does to the Sadducees is he takes the heart of Moses' own example and says, no, when Moses calls upon God, he cites that this is an eternal connection with those who follow him. We should take that to heart, friends. That we're on a journey that's meant to lead us to eternal life. I don't want to get overly theological. I just want to be very clear that what heaven will look like will blow us away. What heaven will look like will transcend whatever feeble expectations we have. What heaven will look like will shake up our reality with awe and wonder. It will be amazing, and it will transcend whatever we can wrap our heads around here on earth. I say that to make sure that as we follow the Lord here in this life, we do the best we can to try to describe what a union with God would look like forever in heaven. But it will be dynamic. It will transcend expectations. It will be truly amazing. And it will be beyond our wildest comprehension. But Jesus makes it clear through both a reflection on marriage and also on a reflection from the time of Moses that there is a resurrection. And for that, we prepare here on earth for that day to come. God bless you all. This is Father Andrew, and I hope this podcast inspires your faith. Now, if you found it helpful, please share it with a friend. And you can help me by leaving a rating and a review. I keep all my listeners in my daily prayers, and I ask for your prayers in return. God bless you, my friends.